Welcome to First Impressions, the podcast where we talk about our love for Jane Austen and Bridgerton and give a big middle finger to all the haters. Digitally manipulating the haters.
Middle finger emoji.
Yeah, I'm Kristen. I'm joined today by Maggie and Priya. Hi, guys.
Oh,
hi.
Thank you for coming back to the podcast.
I know. Is this? I don't know what order this is posting in, but is this going to be like a back-to-back Priya
Yes,
show?
it'll be Lovuary, which just posted yesterday, and then this, which we'll post God knows when. But those will be,
friend of the pod, Priya is back. She's our resident Bridgerton expert because she has read all the books.
Yes, that is the important thing. My expertise comes from reading books, which I appreciate. So
Yeah, she's the only friend I know who's read all the books, so that's why she's here. No, we invited her because we love her, and she has excellent literary media criticism and good critique. Wow, this has already gone. What is wrong with us today, ladies? We're just like, no, I'm just like, I can't string together a sentence. Kristen, you sounded like you were drunk in the intro. Like, what is going on?
I was trying to. I should have polished it up beforehand, but as soon as they said give a big middle finger, I was like, I should make a digital joke because fingers are the fingers are the digit of the moment, the appendage of the moment.
We should
So
also
hot for summer.
specify that Margaret's not safe for work name on this call right now involves the word finger as well.
Yes, you may refer to me in this podcast as Margaret Fingerington, cousin visiting from the colonies. Wait, no, at this point we were the United States. A cousin visiting from America, Margaret Fingerington. Welcome to the tongue.
We'll give you a warm hand of welcome. Oh God, I hate it.
Okay, let me get us back on track. As you all have surely gleaned by now, we have gathered here today to speak to you about the third season of Bridgerton, which actually is aired this month. We're doing really good. We're actually meeting to have this podcast the same month as the piece of media, which that's like way better than our usual track record. Although I can't promise that this will go up anytime soon. So by the time you've heard this, you might have learned everything. But we are here to talk about Bridgerton season 3, and I'm very excited.
Yay!
So the structure for this podcast will be, we'll go around, share our overall impressions, and then we're just going to go whole hog on whatever we want to talk about. And that's the way we normally do it.
Yeah, it's just this time it's just three friends chatting. I know you guys are used to our hard-hitting critiques, but this time it's just going to be very free flow. So it'll be great.
And we're all old now, so we're drinking tea instead of wine. We used to do this podcast and drink wine on it.
Yeah, do you remember that? I actually can't drink anything after 5:00 in the evening now, or I will have to pee 3 times during the night.
Well, I can't.
So I'm drinking nothing.
What were you saying, Priya? What are you drinking?
Ginger peach sparkling water.
Oh,
Target brand.
The most exciting option of nothing, tea, and ginger peach sparkling water.
So Priya, tell us your overall impressions. What did you think of season 3?
Yeah, so I'm pretty easy because I am not, even though I've read all the books, I am not an adaptation purist. And so I enjoyed it. There were definitely things that I was like, that is not in the books, but okay. But, and I will say, we should mention that, as if you all don't know, but they did split the season, which I did not love. I will say that's something I did not love because I think that definitely ruined the pacing for me a little bit in a way that was just really evident this year. And I know it was for money and Netflix being Netflix, but I just thought it ruined the pacing that worked on the first 2 seasons. But generally though, I am happy with how they handled some of the updates to Colin and Pen's story and some of the interesting things they've done to set up the future. So in a nutshell, that's me.
What do you think, Maggie?
I loved it. It was my favorite season so far for a couple of reasons I can get into in a little bit. But I've been a Colin Penelope shipper since day one. So it was very much wish fulfillment for someone like me who spent a lot of their youth unpopular, the wallflower, having crushes from afar. So everything about it was kind of very wish fulfillment-y, but I loved it. I do agree about the split, actually. From a business perspective, it was genius. And as torturous as waiting that month was, I really engaged with the fandom. Like my friend Trisha and I, we talked about it every day and sent each other links to memes and videos and TikToks every day. And like that anticipation was actually very fun. But it did break up the pacing. And it was difficult for me to think of the season as a cohesive whole rather than a part one and a part two. And I think it's going to be a while before I can go back and watch it all 8 episodes and really get a feel for the season as a whole. And that's purely because of the way it was split and marketed to us. I will say, however, that my favorite thing about this season is we did not have to wait 7 episodes for the main couple to get together, which was my big issue with season 7. It was just too long of a slow burn. Like there's a slow burn and then there's 7 hours.
Yeah, we'll come back to this.
Yes.
We'll come back to this because not everyone felt the way you did, which is interesting.
I will also say I was so happy and relieved that the split, so the end of episode 4 was not a bummer and it was like so positive and exciting. And I loved that. That made me really happy. I thought for sure we were going to end on some shitty cliffhanger where everybody's mad at each other or there's some stupid misunderstanding. No, they basically, he just fingered her in the carriage. It was great. Everyone was happy.
Yeah, I guess it should go without saying this is an explicit episode. No little ears. No, we're about to get
We're always explicit, baby.
Yeah.
Kristen, what did you think? I'd love to hear your thought.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I was mostly invested in Penelope's legacy as Lady Whistledown. I was very invested in that. That meant a lot to her. It meant a lot to me. The final episode with Queen Charlotte figuring out who Whistledown is. And it's like a 2-second scene where she's like, I'll be keeping my eye on you. And then everything's fine was the dumbest, worst waste of my time, biggest cop out of 3 seasons of television. It was so obnoxiously short and badly written. It was like they had no ideas of how to handle it. I was so mad, honestly. And like, I do love Pen and Colin, and it was nice to see them get together. It's just that I don't know. I really became, I don't know. Did I get shy? Like did I become shyer once I turned 40? Because I did not enjoy the sex scenes, even though I think these two have great chemistry and I'm about them all the way and I love them. I think they're both very attractive. I did not want to see that explicit of a sex.
That's interesting. Maybe you are becoming more prudish as you get older.
I want to see the reactions, but I don't want to see the thrusting. I don't know. It was too much.
I have a lot to say in response.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot to say in response. So we had basically 2 main sex scenes between our leads, right? We had the carriage and then we had in their house. So episode 4 and episode 5. I also was blushing throughout episode 5. Like it was very explicit, Kristen. You are right. I did, however, like the juxtapositions between those 2 scenes because they felt very different to me. One was just like very hot and like they just can't keep it. They just are going at it. And then the second one was more like tender but again, very wish fulfillment-y of how you would want your first time to be, right? Like lots of consent, lots of him constantly telling her how beautiful she is. But yeah, it was very explicit. I was blushing. I just really quickly, your comment about how like it didn't seem, her being Lady Whistledown didn't really seem to have any negative effects. I really think they set that up for next season. She explicitly tells him, there's going to be dark days ahead. Like people are not going to forget the things that I did. And so I think that we're setting that up for the future.
There is no way she can meaningfully continue to be Whistledown. And so it seemed like such a stupid cop out to be like, I'm going to be Whistledown next season.
Well, yeah. I mean, and I will say I don't feel like this is a book spoiler, but I don't think Whistledown is a significant person in the books after hers. Like, I don't think it plays a specific role. And I really think that they saw this one as, even though because it's 7 kids, right? So even though there's 4 more afterwards, I think they really saw this as a split in a lot of ways. And we can get to that because I think they did a lot of things to transition people off the show so that we can bring new people on. And so I really do think it's also possible that we're going to see a Whistledown less, or less Whistledown
I
in
agree.
seasons.
Let me posit something too. I was thinking as I was listening to it, first of all, I just want everyone to know how much I love Julie Andrews. Like, my entire life, love Julie Andrews. I'm wondering if they felt like they needed to actually transition away from Whistledown also because, Julie Andrews is getting old. And so I think they were sort of like needed to prepare to have something in the future without her involvement too. And I'm wondering if that played a role.
Yeah, Kristen,
this is all conjecture.
Yeah.
Nobody wants Julie Andrews to go anywhere or do anything other than keep being fabulous and keeping the Dowager Queen of Genosea as she, should do in perpetuity. I just wanted to throw that in. Maybe she was like, I don't want to keep doing this. I'd like to retire. So maybe that's just something.
Yeah. Kristen, everyone's allowed their feelings. And I will say that you're not the only person that I've heard that from. I've been hearing people who love the season, people who, enjoyed it like I did, where I was like, that was great. Like, I'm not putting too much weight on it. People who were ecstatic about it and thought it was wonderful. And then there are people who are really, really solidly disappointed for not necessarily for the same reasons as you, but just they didn't think they thought Luke and Nicola had more chemistry than Penelope and Colin in this season. Even though Penelope and Colin had chemistry in previous seasons. And that I found really interesting. Having done a little bit of a rewatch before, I'm not sure these sex scenes were as graphic as the Duke and I. I feel like
they were nowhere near as graphic. They felt much more realistic, and that's why I was blushing. It looked like I was actually watching people boning, and that's why I was like, "Oh my god!" But the first season, I think by far was the most explicit.
I think the sex scenes that I had a problem with that I thought were unnecessary was the Colin threesomes earlier. I was like, did they just have to establish that there were threesomes before Benedict?
No, they had to do that to remember he was like, I'm playing a part, I'm not a rake, blah, blah, blah. They just wanted to establish that he's trying to adopt this persona and be one of the assholes that he was hanging out with.
The Colin with the armor is a whole part of this, even in the book, even though we should caveat that in the book, 10 years have passed between Benedict's book and Penn and Colin's book. And so
2 brothel scenes. The first one, he's into it. And the second one, when he's realized he loves Penelope and he can't even be bothered to participate or even pay attention. And so I think, again, it was supposed to be a juxtaposition.
Yeah, totally. I just think that having that and then having the Benedict of it all, it just felt like it was the season. My one friend who watched it with me was like, is this just the season of threesome? And so we were
okay with that.
A little bit
What's wrong with that?
Nothing wrong with it. We were just like, it's like everyone discovers threesomes this season.
I just want to touch on what you said, Maggie, about Colin realizing that there's no actual emotional presence in his threesomes. It's not meaningful. I actually really loved the scene where he's in Mondrich's club with those 2 guys who are always just around throwing out and with him. And he's like, why do we do this? Why do we take the one part of life that is the most important part and make it cheap like this? That's not the exact line. Yeah. But that he's a great character. And that's a great moment. And I really appreciate what they did with him to try to make him 3-dimensional, where he always wants to save her. There's a line he gets where he's like, what use am I to you? He always has to be the one who is providing some sort of value. He thinks he doesn't have value. That was all very good and interesting. And their story is overshadowed. Bridgerton does this, okay? And it drives me nuts. They take a crisis and they drag it out over so many episodes that all you do is worry for the characters for 3 full episodes. Is she going to tell Colin or what's going to happen when she tells Colin? What's going to happen when Colin finds out? And so, I don't know, their chemistry was cut short. And then all we got was, again, depression. in the same way that in season 2, it was clear that Anthony wanted Kate, and then all we got for 6 episodes was depression and frustration and anxiety. I don't know, maybe I'm just not cut out for TV anymore. Maybe I just get too stressed out about
It's also, yeah, it also just sort of, I mean, I think that's the hard part about romance because the HEA is a guaranteed, but the path to HEA sometimes takes the whole book, right? HEA is happily ever after. And so that was something I was talking about with another one of my friends. She was really upset that the lack of happiness for them in it.
The anxiety for me too is very real because it is absolutely true. And they did acknowledge it this season. And I'm really glad they did. It is actually true that Penn did a lot of fucked up shit.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely true that when people find out about it, that there's hell to pay, emotional devastation to pay. So that knowing that was hanging over her head and knowing her cruelty was about to come back and bite her in the same way Cressida's cruelty. You know, we're always supposed to hate Cressida and love Penelope, but Penelope used her own newfound power for bullying as well in certain instances. But that's what the anxiety was very deep rooted because she really has done messed up stuff. And you know me, like I'm always worried about grace. And like that's like the most important thing to me is will a person be redeemed from their misdeeds? And so that was just really anxiety provoking for me. So maybe that's why I had so much trouble with it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. One of the things I was thinking about, and I think they tried to show the contrast. Man, we really are going to be like bouncing all over the place on this. But the contrast with Cressida writing it versus Penn writing it is that Penn, like we've seen the moments where Penn has slipped, where she has done it in order to save Eloise or in order to make a point about Colin or in order to like, but then they also showed that like the stories and the voice, the reason she started it and her remembering why she started this was to give voice to the voiceless, right? And I think that was sort of a nice contrast that I talked a lot about Cressida being with some of my friends about Cressida being a mirror to our heroes about how so easily you can like stray and use this power for bad. So in some ways, she's the mirror for Penn for how Whistledown could be in the wrong hands, could go very, very bad all the time instead of just when Penn has slipped. And then for Eloise, she's definitely been a mirror to Eloise about acting for yourself when you have so much privilege, right? I just thought that was really interesting about Cressida, where someone was also like, why did Cressida get so much backstory? And I was like, I think because Cressida was supposed to be a mirror for Eloise, a mirror for Penn. She was supposed to be the person that Colin realizes how much he cares for Penn and how the fact that she's Whistledown doesn't marry to him and that he was living with envy rather than anything else. That she just had a lot of vehicle. But I thought was really interesting about Cressida was also this conversation about what desperation does to someone in a visceral way when you have literally nowhere to go. And at some point we could talk about rumors about Cressida that I think is ridiculous and not going to happen, but we could talk.
I know what you're talking about. I
don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it works, but like it's a really.
But she'll be back. She will be back for sure.
Did they say that?
I think she will be back. I think she'll be back for sure.
We want to see a happy ending for Cressida because they fleshed her out and they did show her actions were out of desperation.
Yeah. And her upbringing. Her father's terrible. Her mother explicitly said, I taught you to like view other women as competition and not to like.
I also just felt really bad for Lord Debling the whole first half of the season.
Debling.
Cressida didn't end up with Debling.
What happened to him?
He just absolutely vanished off the face of the earth.
Just fucked off to the Northwest Passage, I guess. Like,
yeah, he like didn't marry Cressida, and she was the other one in the running. You know, you would think he would have just been like, "All right, I'll marry this other bitch." You know,
thought that was a real problem with part 2 that they didn't. At least they did name check him, but I needed just like a line telling me what happened to him because to have a character who is such a driving force of plot for like 3 episodes and then to just have him exit stage left and we have no idea what happened to him. I think that's a fair critique. I think another fair critique of part 2 is that, listen, I love Penelope and I was very happy that Penelope was actually the main character of part 2. I love that. But I did hear a lot of criticism, which I think is fair, is that Colin was very sidelined in his own season. And so I thought that we should have had more of him. Like, I love Benedict being bisexual. Like, that was the first thing he's ever done that's interesting. But I really didn't need so many flashes to what Benedict was doing. Like, I want my main characters.
Yeah, and that was the thing. I saw a lot of people time clocking scenes of Penn and where Penn and Colin were in the same room, or where Colin was. But I will say there were some very nice scenes. I think the night before their wedding, the Colin, Benedict, Mondrich, and
yes,
John. Yeah, just like that whole scene where John was like, should I do something bold? Should I do something? And Colin's like, no, don't do it. Benedict's
they're both not. Benedict's like, you need to do something bold. And like, Colin is nodding yes. And then Benedict goes, you should throw rocks at her window. And he's like,
Colin's like,
Benedict Bridgerton is the last Bridgerton that I would take advice from, honestly. Hyacinth is first, obviously.
But
Kate is probably second. Yeah, but I would not listen to Benedict. Like, so if Colin is like, yes, do that. I'm like, okay, this is good. Don't do that. Okay, no, we're not going to do that now. Just don't. Benedict's also the one who told the Mondriches they could do whatever they want now that they're married, which is also untrue.
Yeah. Well, he's just like, I can do whatever I want. Life is for the taking, and that's just his privilege, right?
Yeah, totally. Kristen, I just want to respond really quickly to what you were saying about it being anxiety inducing for you. That's really interesting to me because Bridgerton is one of the only shows that doesn't give me anxiety. And it's because I know that we will have the happy ever after. So I feel completely safe no matter what wild thing is happening or whatever roadblock is there. I know by episode 8. Well, whereas this season I stopped watching House of the Dragons, right? Because I'm like, nope, can't handle that. And The Bear, I'm like, need to take my anxiety medication before I watch it. But with Bridgerton, I'm like, chill.
The Bear is like one episode, go watch something else for 3 weeks, and then come back and watch the second episode. I can't handle it.
Yeah, totally.
Can we talk about Kristen's other comments? Because I think they're worth exploring as well, like the reveal. The reveal with the Queen was really interesting because the whole way that they changed the bet and all of that stuff from the book was I was really interested to see how they were going to handle that, because in the book, the person who outs her at the ball is Colin. Like, Colin's the one who is like, she's the one who's like, Cressida's bribing us. She's like, there's no way out, whatever, we're going to be in trouble. And Colin's the one who's like, let's have this ball. But he's the one who makes the announcement and says everything. And Penn doesn't really say anything. And so I appreciated that the whole ending and coming out was her agency and her saying, no, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to take ownership for what I did. I know these people aren't going to be happy with me. Okay. And
go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no, I was just going to emphasize that in the books, the Queen's not a person, right? And so this is all Lady Danbury who does the bet and everything in the books.
The one time where Colin does try to take away her agency when she's being blackmailed, he's like, no, I will handle this. He makes it so much worse. I loved that. It was like the smartest person in the room is like, wait, I think I have a plan. And they're all like, no, shh. We'll take care of it. And of course, it blows up in their face even more. Speaking of Lady Danbury, I'm pretty sure that she figured it out at the wedding that Penelope was Lady Whistledown. Remember when the Queen comes in and she's like, everyone who's not a Bridgerton leave. And of course, Lady Danbury stays. She clocks Penelope and Colin's reaction to what's going on. And I think that's where she figures it out.
At the end, she does have that conversation with her where she said, who cares about the Bridgertons more than the Bridgertons, or other than the Bridgertons?
Yeah. And I did really love the scene where they're playing chess and she's like, the game will be over. Like, do you really want to find out who Whistledown is? Because then,
this is such a smart way to handle this. And then the only thing that was so stupid was like they lost that opportunity for catharsis when she like makes this big accusation. I feel like there were things they could have done, like other people could have spoken up for Penn. I mean, after she makes the declaration and says her spiel, which wasn't particularly compelling to me, and the Queen's like, we'll have our eye on you. The stakes should have been higher.
Yeah, you know what, though? I think I agree with you, because in the book, again, Colin's speech is about how it's like a public declaration. of how proud he is of her.
Yeah.
And how much he values her and how smart she is. And he does it privately, but he doesn't do it publicly. And I think I would agree that element was missing, because it did feel a little bit like she said all this stuff and then the butterflies come out.
Maybe if he had like stepped up and taken her hand and been like, I support her, whatever she says, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't disagree with what either of you are saying.
But if they wanted to do a tie-in with Pen was a voice for the voiceless, other women of the Ton might have stepped up and in somehow like wordless form of solidarity, like they could have stood by her or something. Like, I'm not a writer, like that's actually, now that I say it sounds like that sucks, but somebody could have come up with something better, because she did try to use her power for good, and maybe there could have been some kind of acknowledgement of that, or some kind of grace given based on that, or at least some kind of higher stakes, like what will the queen decide? Like, I don't know, man, but it was over in like 2 seconds, and we've spent 3 seasons. Again, this is the same point I made before, and I was left really let down. And I also want to say, I heard, in a slightly different topic, I've heard some people describing, what's her name? Not Philippa, the other girl who's screaming, the bugs, Varley.
Well,
What is her name?
what's her other saying? Her sister's name, Philippa.
Her daughter's
and Prudence.
Yeah, I've heard people say it's an act of sisterly solidarity, like to distract Pen from being up there with all eyes on her and feeling scared.
That's how I read that.
Did you?
Yeah.
I didn't get that at all, but it's kind of nice to read that in. And let me also say one other kind of funny thing. They kept saying the Dankworth Finch ball, and I was like, why did they give some nameless characters we don't know a ball? Because I did not make the connection that the Dankworth Finch are the 2 last names of the sisters now. Mr. Finch.
Right.
So,
Bay and I called it the dank ass fuck ball.
But I loved that Pen gave them the money. Like, that was so sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Now, all I can talk about now is like the moments that I loved, even after
But the Featheringtons coming together and becoming a real family, like once they're linked with the Bridgertons, was a really beautiful, sweet thing to see.
Yeah.
It's wild how much we rooted for Portia and how she became like a Mrs. Bennet character who's right all along. Anyway, go ahead.
I've always rooted for Portia.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I think this was a really nice place to have the Featheringtons leave. I think that they're set up as the villains, and like the villains, quote unquote. I think Penelope saying, let's try and be better from now on, really opens the door for a new family to come in, which is why I think the rumor about Cressida doesn't work, because I think we need that other family from Benedict's book to come in and be the bad guy.
Should we say explicitly what the rumor is?
Yeah. So the rumor
if you don't want, hold on. If you want no spoilers for what happens in books or potential for season 4, fast forward like a few minutes. Okay, Priya.
And I guess you guys will put timestamps somewhere. Who knows? But you don't really do that. Yeah. So in the book, Benedict's love interest is a woman named Sophie. And Sophie is basically, it's a Cinderella story, right? And so she's like the stepsister that's treated like a maid. And that family is awful. Even worse than the Featherington, because at least the Featheringtons like treated Pen occasionally with respect, and like they loved her in the end. In this one, they're just trash and put her in situations that are not okay.
He meets her at the masquerade ball, doesn't know who she is, and blah, 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 right? And the rumor is that it's Cressida who comes back from Wales and has the mask, and like nobody knows who she is. And I do not think that will happen.
Yeah, because I think part of the purpose of all of the Benedict of it all is that he is open to being with someone who is completely out of the Ton sphere. And Cressida, while she's an outcast, I don't think she is someone who cannot find her way back in. Because at the end of the day, she didn't really do anything wrong. And she's still a part of a gentry family. And so, like, I just cannot see that them setting Benedict for all this, like, freedom and living outside the Ton and seeing that there are other ways to love people outside of the Ton, that like they would go to all that work to have him end up with Cressida. So that's just my opinion.
I love that the writers finally let us have our dream come true of having Benedict be bisexual. I thought that the guy in the polycule was hot. I was all about that. I was super into that. I loved the line, "Love is not finite." I was so bored and irritated with his storyline in the first 4 episodes because I was like, where is this going? I don't like this blonde lady. She's like harsh, and she doesn't seem appealing. I don't like her.
She looked like a Hitchcock.
Everything was back, right on track. Everything was my dream for Benedict, and that was great.
As soon as she said, "Oh, I want to have dinner and introduce you to my friend Paul," I was like, "Here we go. This is it. This is it. Paul." And then as soon as I saw him, I was like, "Paul fucks." Like as soon as I saw him, you knew. Yeah, it was great.
When Benedict and Tilly are sitting on the bench and she's like, I think I want just us. And he's like, oh no, I like the freedom. And like, I just really like that conversation too. There are actually a couple conversations in this season that I felt were really well written. I think that was one of them. I think the conversation with Colin and Penn, I don't know when it was. It was not the night after their wedding night. It was like the day, one of the other times when they weren't sleeping together, but they were married, where he is like, she's like, don't you want it to be like it was? He's like, don't I want to be able to kiss you and love you and be the way we were before? But he's like, I'm just not there yet. I need more time. And that it's not always about like, and she said, okay, and was all right with that. And that's just like another form of consent, which I just really appreciated, especially for a show that conversations about consent have been part of it since the beginning. Like I think this season was very much about like friends listening to each other and knowing when to like not push.
Yeah.
And I did really appreciate that.
Let me ask a question if we can switch gears for a little bit. Do you guys think Eloise is a good friend?
She's also very annoying. Like I used to like her as a character, and then this season she's just bugging the crap out of me.
I think that's hard. I can't separate book Eloise from show Eloise sometimes. I think she is a friend in the only way she knows how. Right. And I think that when in the books, there's a 10-year gap. And so she and Penn have been assuming that they're going to be spinsters because they're like, they've been spinsters for 10 years. So she has this idea in her mind about how their life will play out. Like the two of them will set up house together. They'll be friends and it'll be fine. And then Penelope goes and upends everything. She doesn't know she's Whistledown in the books until the end, like later. And so like, it's hard for me in this one to really see just the way Whistledown impacts how she is friends with her. And I think part of it is that she doesn't know herself. And because she's kind of figuring out what she wants and she sees herself, and she said that at some point, right? At the wedding, she's like, once again, I'm left behind. And it's interesting because both her and Benedict feel the same way, but for different reasons.
I just feel like, and we saw it with her friendship with Penelope, we saw it with her friendship with Cressida, she just talks at people and wants to talk about herself. She really is supremely uninterested most of the time in what other people are going through. She said to Penelope, my brother, how long have you had feelings for him? And I was like, are you fucking serious right now, Eloise?
Are you blind?
The answer is as long as I've known you. And she never noticed.
Also didn't seem to care about Cressida's plight at all. Cressida was like, can I tell you about how I'm trying to like not get married to this old ass guy? And Eloise is like, yeah, sure. We would talk about it later. She has nothing to help. She's not particularly concerned. She's a shitty friend.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think she's a really bad friend. And I really think that, Priya, what you're saying, I hope is correct. I hope Eloise's season is, and the end of this season too, I think, when it was like her and Penelope back together, working together, I'm hoping that her journey is learning who she is and learning how to be there for other people too. She's pretty narcissistic, honestly.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that was the sort of the other struggle and conversation I had with other friends as we went through, is that they really don't like Penn and Eloise not being friends. And I thought that was really hard because I think when they're together in the first 2 seasons, I thought that was just really one of my favorite, just like the Bridgerton family of it all in this season continue to be adorable. I think it was hard for me. There were points where I was like, okay, well, we know this has to happen because I know at some point forgiveness has to come into place. But I do think she gets it by the end with what happens to Cressida, how she treated Pen and what she lost by how she treated Pen. And I think that's why she's like, I need to get out of here. I need to get out of this bubble and I need to go to Scotland, which incidentally does not happen in this. But
it was like Gilmore Girls season 7. Like nobody liked it. Get our girls back together. Like them not being friends was so hard to deal with as a fan.
Yeah.
I do think from a story perspective, they need to have her go to Scotland because otherwise it's just Francesca's husband, and Francesca's new love interest in Scotland. So that'd be like jumping over to an entirely different country to talk about one character, and it'll be like really hard to weave that story together.
Yeah. So I think when we
what
get
better way to find yourself?
I think when we get to the spoiler part, we can talk about speculations about how that might play out. Because I have speculations, but I don't think there's a way to talk about that without talking about when he was wicked.
Oh yeah, let's at the end. Let's do a spoiler. Let's do a speculation section that people can skip if they want, where we talk about like what we think.
Yeah, because we were talking about female friendship. We should probably talk about Lady Danbury and Violet, which I adore. And I thought Marcus, I really liked how that like new character. I thought that was lovely. I really appreciated how they played that out and how they brought back the Queen Charlotte moment with the hat in. So that sort of closed that period with them out. For those of you who didn't watch Queen Charlotte, spoiler alert, there's a thing with Lady Danbury and Violet's father. Again, not in the books, but still very interesting. And at the end of Queen Charlotte, I think they intimate that Violet knows that there was something, but they explicitly talk about it. And I thought the scene where they talk about, I know about this, but you're still someone very dear to me. So I don't think we need to talk about it. And then they say it back to each other. I just thought that scene was lovely.
Any scene in the 3rd season where it was Lady Danbury with some other, one of the elder cast members, I'll say, like not one of the kids, you know what I mean, was beautiful and perfect and wonderful. And I don't know if it's because the writing of those scenes was better or like you just saw like seasoned great actors acting and that elevated it. But all of those scenes where she's talking to her brother, where she's talking to Violet, where she's talking to the Queen, they're all great. And it just like takes it up a notch.
And she's just,
in my opinion,
just amazing. I love her.
Lady Danbury is just like the best part of the show. It's delightful. And the way that she's sort of puppet mastering everything still. I was annoyed with her getting Francesca to be the diamond, like, or to be the sparkler or whatever. You know,
it's like, who cares? I think none of us really cared about that, right? It just felt like we were filling time.
I really liked the back and forth where because Penelope didn't turn the screws on the Queen once Francesca didn't want Saldani anymore, that the Queen was like, she's weak. Yeah. Now's the time for me to strike. Like, I liked all that. I'm scared. All I can talk about is how I liked it. It's so weird.
You're like, I hated it. And they're like, these are all the things I like. Can I tell you one thing that I did not like and that they better fix next season, or I'm going to start a letter writing campaign? We only saw Lord Remington in one scene.
Who's that?
I was in the wheelchair who like loves Lady Whistledown and was so into it when he was so cute.
Yeah.
Can't not believe that someone didn't look at the dailies of that day of shooting and was like, we got to get this guy in more scenes.
Yeah, he was great. And then I also like the mom and daughter with BSL, the British Sign Language. That was also, and that was very noticeable that they had a lot of people in there differently abled. Yes.
I just loved Lord Remington's whole vibe. And I was like, we need more of this. Like, he and Penelope need to just like sass at each other.
Yeah, because we didn't ever see him come over to visit her.
And she says he's going to come call on me. And I was like, I want to see that. No, where is he? They needed to have him. Or like even just put in a scene of like at the Dankworth Finch ball where it's all going down and you look at him and he's just like, girl, and like drinking champagne. Everybody loved him. The internet went crazy for him. And I felt like that was a real missed opportunity. They had a whole month. Just drop in some other scene of Lord, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I say too, like some of the story decisions, I don't know if they were okay. The balloon, that's a Georgette Heyer plot twist where a balloon becomes unmoored and it's dangerous. And the butterflies, I think, is a reference to a book called what is it called? It's about rich people. It's not Snobs by Julian Fellows. It's the other one. maybe people like us. Anyway, they have a big dance at the end where they release butterflies. But in that book, the butterflies get fried on the electric tube lights and start falling on everybody. But I was like, is that where this idea came from? But anyway, there are a lot of like references, and there have been, it may not be a direct connection to Georgette Heyer. And before I say anything else, I think everybody already knows this. Georgette Heyer is a writer of Regency romances. She also was very unsavory in her personal beliefs. So I'm not, and sometimes within her books, I became a Heyer fan before anybody told me that. I was obsessed with her books. I read all of her books, and then some of them have some fucked up content in them. So don't pick up a Heyer unless you're prepared for that. But anyway, she was a writer of foundational Regency romances. She's what made the genre popular. And so when people talk about Vauxhall Gardens, or people talk about, all of this fantasy, this fantasia of the fantasy world of Bridgerton, where they bring in all of this Regency stuff, I see a lot of references to her work. And that balloon thing, I was like, I know where we're going with this. And so it's kind of a fun Easter egg. So
I thought the butterflies were like, the butterfly is to the Featheringtons as the bee is to the Bridgertons. Like it's Penelope like flying free. Because I think there's some butterfly motif. Yeah, there's butterfly motifs in their wardrobe throughout the season. And so it's like Penelope finally like breaking free.
We have to talk about the costumes. We have to talk about Pen's dresses.
Everything she wore was so gorgeous. My God. Gorgeous. Everything she wore, all of her hair, everything just stunning. Nicola's beautiful.
It starts with greens. It starts with like jewel tone greens. Then it moves into a gray blue. Then it moves into a more blue. And then it moves into a lavender. So all throughout, you see these changes. I know you love storytelling through costume, Maggie. And so I was paying a lot of attention to her metamorphosis. But there were some blue grays in there that looked so fantastic. All I wanted to do was look at her. But here's another thing I hated. At the very end, when the queen, confronts her and Pen gets this big speech, what on earth were they doing with her costuming? She was in the tightest corset. All of her boobs were pushed up under her chin, but then they gave her these huge puff sleeves. I think they're like, we'll make her arms look smaller or whatever. It was all totally unnecessary. Where she looked so great all season, just to let her have her normal costuming. I did not understand.
She was just full glam. It's like her family was hosting the ball, so I think it was just full glam. Like she had the full red lips and everything. Did you notice that as soon as she learns of the engagement, Portia starts wearing blue?
No.
And she starts wearing Bridgerton blue. And when they walk into the ball, Portia and Penelope, they are both wearing royal blue. Like Portia has a royal blue jacket on top of hers, and Penelope has that sparkly royal blue dress.
Yeah.
Not only do we have linking Penelope with the Bridgertons, we have the Featheringtons finally linking together with something other than the citrus colors, but it's for them, it's the blue now too.
Maggie, I know you occasionally watch TikToks. Are you plugged into the costume TikToks where they think that they cheaped down the fabrics this year?
I don't have TikTok formally because I'm a federal employee, so I don't think it's a good idea to have it on any of my devices. I watch TikToks like most 44-year-olds, which is as Reels on Facebook.
Okay.
So no, I have not heard that. That's interesting. I think that vibe.
My friend Diana, hi, who's the person who got me into Bridgerton in the first place, sent me a bunch of TikToks that I could only watch one because it was embedded in a website, because I also do not have TikTok. But not because I'm a government employee, but because I will be on TikTok all day. But they were basically saying that they feel like because of the budget, they weren't using as many silks, and that some of the costuming felt like it had been cheaped out on. I couldn't tell the difference. I thought all the costumes were beautiful. I thought Cressida's sleeves were making a point about her that I thought was beautiful, but I just thought that was an interesting thing that
the number of characters we're costuming now compared to season 1 is double, triple.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me. I didn't notice it. And regarding Cressida, her red outfit, when she showed, The second she walked in, I said, this is an homage to Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind when she shows up at Melanie's birthday party after everyone knows that she was in love with Ashley. She shows up in this red, sparkly, same big sleeve. Like, it has to be. If it's not an homage, I will eat my hat. It has to be. And I have a lot of hats.
Because Tilly was supposed to be Grace Kelly.
Yeah, she was very Hitchcock. She was Hitchcock heroine all the way. Cool blonde. Yes, even her hairstyling was very like 1940s, 1950s. Yeah.
I noticed a lot of sequins this season, like way more sequins.
Yeah.
And I was into it. I was down.
Yeah. It's funny looking back at the first season now, everybody looks so fussy and overlaced and over frilled. And now everybody looks beautiful, but like they're not trying to be period appropriate as much anymore. And I actually like it.
Can we talk about the makeup? I hated the blush on Penelope on her wedding day.
They put a lot of pink in her cheeks, but she was so glowy too. I liked that
It
part.
was patchy though. Like maybe my TV's too big, maybe I have too much 4K or whatever, but it was streaky on her face. And I just kept wanting to reach up onto the TV and wipe and, like get it unstreaked. I mean, I think she looked beautiful, but it was such a weird choice because it also clashed with her hair.
They did the same thing with Francesca too, by the way, like very pink cheeks and very like a lot of highlighter and like very dewy. I thought it looked beautiful. My thought seeing the makeup this season was, this is beautiful. This is going to age this show. Like when you watch things from the 1970s or 1980s that are supposed to be a historical drama and you're like, well, this was clearly made in the 70s. I feel like this is going to have the same. In 20 years, we're going to be like, ooh.
I know. We mentioned this in the Jane Austen Lovey thing too. Yeah, I think you said the same thing about the makeup.
I did. Yeah, it's going to date it. I mean, I just feel that way when they're kind of going all in on modernizing the look of the characters. The problem with that, of course, is now you've set yourself up.
Okay, so that's makeup and we talk costumes. Can we talk about the queen's hair? Ridiculous. And then there was the scene with the ballet where she is got like moving parts and a candle in her hair. And I watched a video about them building it and I was like, what the hell?
Everybody was freaking out about that, but that is period appropriate. Like I was like, oh, cool, they did that because that is what they would literally do.
Oh, I didn't care whether it was period appropriate or not. I just thought it was incredible.
No, I know, but everyone was like, oh my God, did you see her wig? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but they did stuff like that all the time with crazy wigs.
Did they not burn their heads off?
They sometimes, I guess.
They had like burns in them or whatever.
Yeah.
I was going to say, the only thing that I kind of missed with her hair is that in season 1, they did some things with her hair. And, they probably did a lot of this in Queen Charlotte, which I have not seen. But they did things that were more reminiscent of modern Black women's hairstyles.
But they had the one this season. And I think like the second episode, she has like this amazing like turban wrap on the wig, which was stunning. And it's exactly what you're talking about, Kristen. It's the only time I clocked it this season. And I wish, like you're saying, they had done more than that.
Well, that's okay. Maybe they felt that they had done that. And, then they were like, let's go whole hog on the historical like nonsense that Georgians used to do with their hair because it's truly over the top. Yeah. I mean, Priya, better than anyone being a historian,
You know about wigs.
You know about wigs.
No.
I felt bad for the actress because I can't
know about wigs.
I can't even wear a headband, a plastic headband without getting a headache. I can't imagine having to carry that weight.
Not to, if it's okay if we change gears again, can we talk about Francesca and
Lord Kilmartin?
Lord Kilmartin.
Yeah.
Love them. Cute as a button. Love them. It was great. People kept hinting like, oh, too bad it doesn't end well. And I didn't know any spoilers or anything. And so I just like,
I am so happy
it.
we met him and we saw him. I'm really happy we did because we don't in the books. And I'm just really happy we did. That actor is delightful. He is so good.
Yes. And he looks so good in the period clothes. The scene where they're all drinking, like you said, which these were Babe's favorite scenes, by the way, when like the Bridgerton brothers are actually like with Will and
Growing
John.
up.
Like he loved those. And he's like, well, I'm just spied another bottle. And he gets up and he like has the bottle and he like he looked so great in that flouncy shirt. I was like, he could have stepped out of a time machine. He looks incredible. He was such a charismatic guy.
I'm trying to find out what the actor's name is because I'm having a moment of
fabulous.
I'm a little bummed that it seems as though reading into the very last scene with them where she meets his cousin and there's clearly Violet's style of attraction where she can't speak to the cousin. I'm a little bummed that we didn't have a love story that was quiet and compatible because I was actually 100% like, yes, let's talk about all the ways that love can be. Let's talk about realistic love. Like I loved that. And it's like, actually Bridgerton loves what we're here for. And maybe we're like, okay, it's the show. It's the Bridgerton show. Everybody has to have a great love story. Like they've kind of planted a flag on it.
But I would say that we did get that. I think that's what this
I agree.
Francesca was. I think Francesca, in a lot of ways, in the books, Francesca gets 2 love stories, but we don't see the first one. So this is our opportunity to see that first one, and that's what I really, really love about this. And his name is Victor Ali, Alli, and the way they played that, where it was the quietness, the awkwardness, where she's just like, I just want to get married and I want to be peaceful and I want to live in my own space. And I want to be able to talk about what I want without having all these other voices in my head. Like and the fact that he felt the same way and they both felt the same way just felt really lovely and nice. And I agree with you. And I think it was nice that we got that in this. I am very interested in what's good. And when we get to this part to talk about when he was wicked, we could discuss this later.
Do we want to move into speculation? Or do we want to talk more about the season?
We have now, maybe one more thing is, all those people were like, we didn't get happily ever after so much with Pen and Colin. And I was like, I'm really happy we got a lot of Anthony.
Kate and Anthony.
There were some of those scenes where like, I think one of my favorite non-Pen and Colin scene of the show was when Colin comes in and Kate and Anthony are talking to him. Actually, there's 2 really great Anthony.
And she's like, marriage is hard. He's like, our marriage isn't hard. And she's like, you're an idiot.
So I sit down and Anthony is like, you guys can't see me, but he's just like sitting with his eyes wide staring at Colin being like, start. And Kate's like, you have to ask him questions, dumbass. Just like
Kate is MVP new Bridgerton sibling, right? She was great. Dispensing wisdom. Pew, I'm solving your problem. Pew, I'm solving your problem. Her and Eloise's scene was beautiful too.
Favorite thing is when they were playing charades and just how aggressive Anthony was. That they didn't change that about him from Pall Mall. And I was like, I really love this. And they're going to India. We probably won't see them for 2 seasons. I think we need them for Eloise.
She said on Instagram they would be back in season 4.
Oh, great.
Yeah, she has said, was it an interview or Instagram? I can't remember, but she has said Kate and Anthony will be in season 4.
Awesome. Okay, I'm glad. I do think they need to be there for Eloise's because there are some like very classic Eloise book scenes that involve all the brothers. You need them all.
It's also hard to send the Lord Bridgerton character out forever. He's the one who is supposed to be like actually running the family business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see how this would be. He goes and then they come back halfway through season 4. So they're not there for like the first part of season 4, but they're there for later, which would be nice. And then maybe Daphne will come back at some point. But
nice at the end of the show if they can bring them all back. But
yeah.
I just come back for her, brother's wedding. It's kind of like they're just like, yeah, she's not here. We're not going.
Maybe she was pregnant again. Maybe she couldn't travel. Maybe.
This is an example of how I can't watch TV anymore because I take it all way too seriously and it's real to me. When they said, we'll travel while you're pregnant to India.
Yeah, that part was like
you understand how dangerous that would be.
And his whole vibe last season was like, I don't want to marry someone I love because she could die.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I don't need to have that feeling because this is a fictional show and everything will be fine. And we're trying to acknowledge her heritage and how important that is. And
which I really loved.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I loved that too. And I was like, I wanted to see, they let us see the village in India because it sounds so lovely. I want to see them riding horses. So anyway,
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's the only other thing that we haven't really. We've talked about friendship. We've talked about the costumes. We've talked about the Colin and Pen of it all. I feel like we're on to speculation.
Okay.
All right.
Speculation. If you want to have even the slightest whiff of a potential spoiler, you should stop listening now. And we will probably talk about things that happened in Francesca's book. Because we
Yeah.
have
And
to.
then I'm going to vague book around Eloise a little bit.
Okay, so what I said earlier, I think that we are going to see Whistledown Fallout, and we will definitely have a lot of Penelope and Colin in season 3 dealing with that. That's my prediction.
I think something has to be a through line to it. They're going to have to do something to propel. I feel like we're all pretty sure that the next season is Benedict, because they gave us those 3 big clues at the end about the masquerade and the hiding place. And
He full on said.
Yeah. And he's literally at a place where, like he said, the next thing that happens to me is going to be the thing that changes my life. So I feel like we're pretty confident it's a Benedict season. But
What do you think, Kristen?
Chloe and Benedict together.
I agree. I think it'll be.
yeah, so certain things have to happen for Francesca and Eloise, and both of them are not happy things. And so
die, right? People
Yes.
die.
And so I don't know what the order of operations is for people to die. I think that if they've set us up with John, I think we have to see him for another season and get a little bit more of Michaela before we do that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so I guess we're okay to talk about spoilers about when he was wicked, right? Are we okay?
Yeah, John dies.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say
it. Like an aneurysm.
Yeah.
He has an aneurysm and he dies. And Michaela loves him so much. Like Michael is his name in the book, loves him so much, but he has been in love with Francesca since the beginning. He goes off to India and is so like, there's all this guilt wrapped up in his love for Francesca, and Francesca and Lord Kilmartin has this infertility storyline too, which is why lots of people are really angry, because even when she's with Michael, that infertility stuff still keeps going. And they're like, that can't happen now. So I think if they're going to try and keep some of that, we might need another season of her with Lord Kilmartin, and that maybe he dies at the end of next season.
I hadn't considered that, Priya, but I actually think that's a really good idea. Why are you winking at me, Kristen?
I'm not. I have something in my eye.
But what am I to do?
Do you have a cold?
No, I have allergies.
Oh, that's the worst.
Sorry, on the Zoom call, Kristen just kind of, I feel the same way though, because my one eye is so dry. I feel like I'm constantly rubbing it because it's.
Well, I did not take my Bridgerton branded Flonase for a couple weeks because I ran out.
Because it's pollen season, baby.
Pollen season. I told you, like, this is aside. This is like the amount of product branding they have this year is
genius. That's how they're making that money, baby.
It's genius.
It's genius.
But they started the Flonase ad, and I was like, "This is dumb. This is so dumb. This is so dumb."
And then you were like, "I need to buy that."
And then at the end, I was like, "This is the funniest tagline I've ever seen." Anyway, yeah.
Can I tell you guys my favorite actual product tie-in?
Yeah,
it's completely unrelated to Bridgerton. Bay and I were watching a TV or like a commercial. We watch stuff on Hulu, and we have commercials, and I'm like sitting here like a chump. 10 years after streaming started watching fucking commercials like it's the year 2000. It makes me really mad. But we thought it was a commercial for the new Garfield movie. No, it is a commercial for Olive Garden lasagna with Garfield. And I was like, this is the best product tie-in I've ever seen in my life. It was genius.
I love it.
It was like Garfield wants to go to the Olive Garden and get the lasagna.
Yeah.
So good. Okay.
The other speculation and vague booking around it is most of the first half of Eloise is epistolary. So it's
God, no, I hate it. I don't like it.
And so what I think is going to happen, again, speculation. Do you know who she ends up with, Maggie? Like
I do. I don't know if we want to say that spoiler. Kristen, do you know?
I feel like I know. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
okay. We're going to spoil this too, guys. So don't listen if you don't want to.
Yeah.
It's Marina, right?
So Marina dies.
Yeah.
And because she's basically had a life of, like, she's off screen. We don't know her in the books. And they intimate that basically she's been depressed and sad all her life because of she lost the love of her life and all this stuff, and she's just never been able to quite recover. So not quite the Marina we know. And she basically walks into their pond and catches to kill herself, gets rescued, doesn't die, but then she catches a fever and dies. And so it starts with like Eloise. Marina is one of the Bridgerton's cousins, not a Featherington's cousin.
Oh, interesting.
And so she basically starts writing letters to Sir Philip, basically saying, I'm so sorry for your loss. And they just start a letter campaign, at which point, I think somewhere in the letters, he asks her to marry her. And the night of the outing ball of Lady Whistledown, she runs away to him. And so none of that's going to happen, right? Like none of that.
I don't think so. I did know that Eloise ends up with that guy, and I actually don't think they'll do that. I think they'll come up with something completely different for her.
I think
maybe she won't get married. I'm actually wondering if Eloise is asexual. The way she talks about people always pairing off, like she just doesn't seem to be into that. So maybe she's ace, and maybe she doesn't have to be paired off with someone to be happy.
My understanding is Julia Quinn is that like the pairing off will happen. I just think what they'll do is, I think they just can't do the epistolary of it all. So because they've established that the house where Sir Philip lives is right near Aubrey Hall, I think she's probably going to be alone and take a lot of walks. Who really knows? But it's the Marina thing that I'm like, when does that happen?
But she needs to get back from Scotland for all that to happen.
She has to get back from Scotland. If she's after, I think it's going to be Benedict, Eloise, Francesca, because I think they need time for Francesca.
I disagree because I think we're going to get 5 seasons of Bridgerton and then it's canceled. I think we only get 5 seasons.
Shauna says that they are committed to 7.
Really?
Yeah.
This is news to me.
I read an article before this one started where she's like, I really want to do all 7. I'm committed to all 7. The problem is the schedule, and that Netflix requires all the scripts to be done before they can do it. And so she's like, we have to find a way to make them faster. And that is what the harder part is.
Well, I'm going to say it's fine for Shonda to be committed to 7, but Netflix is probably not going to, Netflix, they'll cancel things after 1 or 2 seasons because of the money. They're not going to keep giving her money.
But I think they know that this is a money pit, like not a money pit, but this makes them money.
We'll see. So Stranger Things is ending. Stranger Things is last season is next year. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think they want, I mean, I think they're going to at least get us Eloise and Francesca. Gregory and Hyacinth, who cares?
No, I've got to see. I don't know anything about Hyacinth's book, but she is my favorite character, actually. I love her so much.
Books that I am pretty sure I've only read once. And I am interested to see what ends up happening with them. They are both very cute kids and they're growing up really well. I thought she was hilarious in the season.
I mean, have you seen her outside the show? She is like 21 years old. Like they just make her look like she's much younger. She's like a full ass grown person. I mean, Nicola Coughlan is 39?
I thought it was, this is a speculation, but I thought the funniest thing about Nicola Coughlan was her saying that she had them do the whole version of the show this season without any of the sex scenes for her
mom. And then she took them to the live Dublin screening of episode 4 and her mom saw everything, or episode 5 and her mom saw everything.
It's really funny.
Do you have any speculation you want to share, for future seasons? What you think is going to happen?
No, I was just going to note, I appreciated actually that she did the topless nude scene.
Oh my God, she looked incredible. Incredible. She's right. Her breasts are perfect.
I know that a lot of times actresses try to negotiate not doing that. Didn't the actress who played Khaleesi, who played Daenerys, negotiate no top nudity? Because they want to be protected. But at the same time, I feel like she gave that to the show because it was important for the character's vulnerability.
Yeah, and it's like you hear, I won't do the nudity unless it makes sense for the story. This absolutely.
It totally made sense. And it wasn't gratuitous at all, I didn't think.
So. And I mean, I think it was just the body positivity I really appreciated.
She is stunningly beautiful. Yeah.
And I was I like that we didn't even talk about it until now. It just, for me, it didn't really matter.
I just keep seeing gross articles about like, oh, America's not ready for like a weight different couple, or like, oh, Nicola Coughlin's so brave. And I'm like, she's fucking gorgeous. Like, also she is a normal shaped person, you know?
I actually had a problem with what they, and Maggie knows this. I was complaining a lot in the first half of this season about the pounds of bronzer that they put on Luke Newton, and the sharp cut sideburns and the cheek hollows they accentuated. And I was like, there is nothing wrong. I was like, wash that poor boy's face and send him to Burgerville.
Kristen, you
Because-
really have mom energy now.
I watch.
I'm gonna watch your face,
There's
young
nothing wrong
lady.
with his face. We can see two round-faced people fall in love and still enjoy it.
Did you don't check your TV
Oh,
settings?
did you mean feed him? Is when you said Burgerville, did you mean feed him something?
Burgerville is a local chain in Portland. I forgot that it's not everywhere.
Kristen, they're just trying to make him look like a pirate. He's just a pirate now.
They put him in this duster, and I understand what you're saying now, Maggie, about his coldness, and he comes back changed and harder. And
Yeah, he is supposed to be cringy. 100% cringy.
with the and also cringy, and that's the joke that Lady Whistledown writes, and I can appreciate all that. I can. But I was bothered that they felt the need to make him look like a sex symbol, like sexier. There was no need for that. He's already very attractive.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
it
was
didn't
just
bother
really
me.
bothered. But what I thought they were trying to do, and that it was like distractingly bad. There was so much bronzer. He looked like Kim Kardashian. He was so contoured.
It did not bother me. I thought he looked great.
Oh, well, you're wrong.
But you must have like a crazy high def TV. Like I thought I had a really good
I
TV.
guess so. I guess. Yeah, maybe that's a problem.
None of the makeup and the skin stuff you guys are talking about I noticed because my TV is like my sister's TV from grad school, and she just celebrated her like 15th anniversary from graduating from her MBA
Oh my
program.
God.
And so it's like a 30-year-old TV. It still looks great. It's still fine.
Yeah.
I just can't see people's pores. Then I guess I'm okay with that. But
Yeah, no, totally.
That's actually.
But now I'm gonna be so self-conscious every time I see Kristen. Like, am I wearing too much bronzer? Is she gonna tell me to go wash my face? She can tell me to eat a burger though anytime you want.
It's bananas that I have such a low def TV because I watch TV like nobody's business. And so it's just like people come over and they're like, why don't you have Wi-Fi on your TV? And I'm like, because I don't.
Priya, next year, take your tax refund and treat yourself. That's what I did. I treated myself after.
Yeah, I heard they're real
lockdown.
cheap right now. They're real cheap right now. So I could just get like a cheap TV. It's just I was redoing my bathroom area this year. So
Gotta treat yourself.
I got some new wallpaper.
Girl.
It's all great.
So then you too treat yourself so you too can be mad
about the
at the makeup.
Other speculation.
Violet and Marcus, are they going to get it on? I think they will.
Oh, yeah. So I was wondering about Marcus, if Marcus was a subtle setup for Hyacinth too, because
Wait, what?
Hyacinth's love interest is Lady Danbury's nephew.
Oh, supposed to be his son.
Yes. And so I was wondering if it was a very subtle setup.
That doesn't seem that subtle to me. Like we're introducing more members of her family. Yeah, totally love it. But probably not for a while.
At least I think I'm right. I told you, I've only read those books once.
I can't wait to see what Twitter is going to do when this episode drops. They're just going to be like, Priya and Harry Potter mouth.
What are you talking about?
I just hope that we have more happy stuff. Because it sounds like there's a lot of people that are going to die coming up, and that's not what I'm into Bridgerton for.
That's going to be interesting how they balance that on screen and off screen, and like how it's going to happen. That's why I think if Lord Kilmartin happens at the end, then we have the summer, and then when they come back, the grieving is like halfway done.
Yeah, we don't have to wallow.
Yeah, I mean, her book is just a little sad. I mean, it's sad.
Well, I'm in my no bummers 2024 era, and I fully expect it to continue to 2025 and 2026. So Bridgerton's going to have to get on board.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess if they filmed it all, I am assuming we'll get, I mean, if the scripts are done, I am assuming we will get it Christmas 2025.
Well, they said 2 years, so I think it's going to be summer. 2026.
Yeah, I think
They've all said it'll be 2 years, which is bullshit. There's no reason 8 episodes. They used to crank out 23 episodes of network television in a year. And you tell me that they can't do 8 episodes. It takes them 2 years. Come on.
Well, so
I have a conspiracy theory.
I think that is why she was saying that it's a script problem, because they would do 23, 24 episodes because people will be writing scripts as they are filming, right? And so like they'd have the outline for the season, but they'd be writing scripts as they were filming and just delivering scripts like 2 days before filming starts. Whereas Netflix is like, we want all 8 right now.
That's fine. It shouldn't take 2 years. My conspiracy theory is that Netflix knows next summer is the summer of Stranger Things, right? Then Stranger Things is over. So they want to have the next season of Bridgerton. They want to hold it for 2026 because then they'll have another prestige summer show. They can't blow their wad all in 2025.
Yeah, all through, like, that's just going to take so long. Yeah.
I think they'll be like 40 by the time we get to her book. I want to see that. I'm in my 40s.
I wonder if Shonda would be like, let's do the scripts for 2 seasons and film everything. And then who knows if Netflix will be around?
Oh, stop, Priya. Netflix won the streaming wars. All right, we're meandering. We need to wrap this up.
Oh, she's just Shonda, yes.
Yeah, Shonda, but I just feel like Shonda can say whatever she wants, but Netflix is the one who has to give her the money to make it happen. So we'll see.
She's a genius. Just give her money.
Right? That's how I feel. That's how I feel about me too. Everyone's just giving money.
Okay, so we're doing like, what are you reading, what watching, wrap up, say goodbye kind of thing?
Oh yeah. Priya, what else are you watching? Or reading? What are your recommendations for our listeners right now?
Ooh, this is really interesting. Okay, so I'm watching Acolyte. I will admit that I've only watched the first 2, and that's a Star Wars sci-fi show, and I've really, really been enjoying that. On genre for this, I read this book by the woman who wrote Mrs. Nash's Ashes, but it's a ridiculous book my friend recommended about a woman who pretends to be a medium and is asked to go to an exorcism at a goat farm and ends up seeing a ghost. And it's a rom-com book, and it's delightful.
Of course it is.
And it's called Happy Medium by Sarah Adler. It's so ridiculous, but it's so delightful.
That's cute. I'm going to add it to my list because that sounds right up my alley.
And then my other sort of obsession right now is Kate Kavari has these books about botanists and their mysteries. If you've read Veronica Speedwell books, it's kind of like that's 1920s. She's a scientist. And the first one's called like A Botanist's Guide to Parties and Poisons. And there's only 3 of them, and they're delightful. So that's my book recommendation, my TV recommendation. I will say I've sort of gone down a Castle rewatch hole right now. So there's also that situation. I wouldn't recommend doing that.
I am watching The Boys on Amazon and about to start Evil season 4 on Paramount, which is wild things to pair with Bridgerton. But that's how we roll. Yeah, that's how we roll. And I'm in the Emily Henry rom-com book of this right now. They're so great. Yeah, they're just so great. They're beautiful. Highly recommend.
We're gonna have some TV adaptations of that coming down.
I hope so. Kristen, what are you watching?
I'm not watching anything. I'm in a rut. We're like really bad. Oh, we're on Below Deck, which is perennial. I'm reading a book that I really dislike. I did just finish rereading Books That I Love by Jill Patton Walsh. Jill Patton Patton, Patton Walsh, wrote 4 mystery novels set in a fictional college within Oxford. And the main character is a nurse. She's the nurse of the college. And yes, it's the Imogen Kai, Quy is the character's last name. Mysteries, and they are absolutely delightful because you love that Oxford vibe. They're set in modern day. They're actually set in the 90s, which was modern day when they were written. And I have read them before and I adored them, especially the passage. Now, this is when Google was new. They're all sitting around Imogen Kai's kitchen table, and she's like, I need to know about this person who's, of course, a key to the mystery. And one of her lodgers he's like, hold on. He runs upstairs to his desktop computer, runs a Google keyword search, prints out the first page of results, runs downstairs and shares the results with the Scooby Gang. It was, as a librarian, I adored that moment. I adored that moment in time from when our information-seeking behaviors were like that. I also have to say I loved that the first book contains not one, but two very obnoxious librarian characters. It's a great book. Because they're set in this fictional Oxford college, the characters actually reference, oh, have you read Gaudy Night, which is a Peter Wimsey mystery written by Dorothy Sayers. Do you know Dorothy Sayers? She's an old timey mystery writer who is along, like, people pair her name with, like, Agatha Christie or whatever. I think they're not quite contemporaries. But Gaudy Night is a female protagonist, mystery author, writer who goes back to her old college in Oxford and has to solve a mystery there. And it's also a love story with Peter Wimsey, and it's absolutely delightful. I had such a great time reading it again. I may reread all the Dorothy Sayers because all I want is a writer with a writing style that is masterful, that I really connect with, but they just write formulaic mysteries, and they wrote like 50 of them. All I want is to sit there and read every single book they ever wrote, and for it to take me months, and for me to pick the next one and already know I'm going to like the author, I'm going to like the story, I'm going to be...
Have you done the Maisie Dobbs books?
Maisie Dobbs?
Maisie Dobbs. Those are by... They just finished. She just did the last one. There's 18 of them, so it's not... It's... Oh, what's her name? I'm sorry, I'm looking this up.
Are they
Jacqueline Winspear. And the first book is just called Maisie Dobbs. It starts with, it's a flashback book, the first one, but she's just coming off of being a nurse in World War I. But the first one flashbacks to how she got there and what her history is. And then it takes you all the way to the end of World War II.
Like great writing now. It has to be a lot.
I think it's great writing. I think the mysteries are really good. There's 18 of them.
Priya is here to grant your wish, Kristen.
Yeah, I think you'll really like them. The ones you're talking about, I'm only finding the Jill Patton Walsh ones where she's rewriting the Lord Peter, like she finished Dorothy Sayers' last book. And
put in the name Imogen, Imogen, and then Kai, Quy, and it's the Imogen Kai mysteries. One of them is called The Bad Quarto. The first one is called The Wyndham Case. Wyndham being someone's last name. It's Wyndham, the Wyndham Case. And it's about a bookcase. The bookcase is
I read the second Thursday Murder Club book, and that was really cute.
I just finished the latest one.
Those are fun. Helen Mirren is in the Helen Mirren.
Ben Kingsley.
Yeah, I was like, who's the guy who's Gandhi? Ben Kingsley. Who else?
Pierce Brosnan.
It's going to be great.
Remember, they just cast who's playing Joyce.
Yeah, they just cast her. It's going to be really good. Can't wait for that. That's the one I'll take with my mom for sure.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And if there are no last thoughts, we will say our goodbye.
I just have to go rewatch the carriage scene for the 100th time. Real quick. Just real quick.
Did I tell you what Kevin said after we watched it? What Kevin said?
No. What did Kevin say?
He goes, that's what I call digital media.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I will say that Bay really liked Bridgerton, and he really enjoyed this season. He's a Kate and Anthony fan. He loved season 2, but he did really like this season. He made this hilarious face during the love scenes where he would like
Yeah, I watched the show with someone else, and I had to watch before because I don't think I could have watched those scenes. I think I had to watch them cold by myself, and then watch them with someone. But yeah,
I took the day off. I took June 13th off work.
It's so cute.
And Trisha, my friend, came over and we watched it together. We binged it together because we didn't want to wait. Who wants to say it?
I think I might know it now.
Okay, say it, Priya.
We have delighted you long enough.
Bye. Bye.
I usually forget it, and I was like, no, I know it.
Beautiful.
All right. Bye, guys.